This notion that God or the existence of an intelligent design or designer is impossible is not very true. Today I'm going to be getting into proof of God through logical deduction. This notion as a society that it is impossible to prove the existence of God or the existence of an intelligent designer as impossible is not very true. Through logical deduction, we're able to see that the existence of an intelligent designer is not unlikely or slightly possible, but the only way that it could be. In this video, I'm going to be presenting logical cases for God's existence, not through emotion, not through inherent belief, not through fear, but through reason, through deduction, and through observing reality itself. So let's begin with the foundational premise. So you look around and you are able to observe an incredibly complex galaxy, solar system, organisms, even things like trees and mountains. The fact that the solar system and the planets that inhabit it are so perfectly intertwined in place that make life possible in the first place. These things we're able to observe through science and through mere observation, yet seemingly we take all of this for granted just because it's so normal, because this is the reality that we live. But these very things that I just listed, the forest, an organism, a person, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe that we inhabit, it's so normal to us to the point we don't observe the fact that that is a mere impossibility itself. The fact any of these things exist in the first place should show us that reality is not formed from randomness and not formed from the unintelligible. And in this video, I'm pretty much going to be backing up this claim continuously. So the real question is, how does ordered structure emerge from the unintelligible or the completely random? This is what atheists think. Life itself has started just from unintelligible and random means. How does symmetry arise from chaos? How does beauty arise from that which is not beautiful? How does consciousness itself arise from unconscious matter? It doesn't. These are things that atheists and agnostics have to struggle with, and struggle with continuously, because it's such a conceptual quandary that plagues them. There's a level of cognitive dissonance that is involved with not realizing and not observing that beauty cannot emerge from what is unintelligible. We observe molecular machinery within an individual cell that rivals human ingenuity and engineering. We observe DNA carrying more data than that of a library. We observe solar systems operating in perfectly balanced and precise gravitational equilibrium. These are not vague, poetic impressions. These are measurable realities that we could observe. So when you take all of these into account and slow down your thought process and think clearly, you're met with a dilemma. Either intelligence is fundamental to reality, or intelligence emerged from that which had none. And the second option collapses logically. You cannot derive cognition from non-cognition without smuggling intelligence somewhere into that system. For consciousness itself to manifest, there must be a ground before that manifestation that was conscious within itself. Intelligence cannot emerge from that which is completely unintelligible without contradiction. There must be a source, there must be this foundational principle that intelligence itself is derived from. And this very fact within itself should show you and start to make you observe the thoughts about an intelligent design or an intelligent designer or God in a more clear and convicted manner. Because through logical deduction, you'll start to see things that are pretty obvious. That's the beauty of logic. And this harmonious structure that is enveloped in the fabric of reality manifests itself everywhere. Take a butterfly, for example. The butterfly's wings have to be so incredibly symmetrical in order for that butterfly to attract a mate. And if that butterfly is not attractive enough, symmetrical enough, beautiful enough, then that butterfly cannot reproduce. And I'm using this example as a symbol and as a metaphor that could be extrapolated and installed onto my broader claim, which is reality has a fundamental desire, it seems, to beautify itself and to create further complex and magnificent molecular machinery through the manifestation of organisms and molecular structure, period. This beautiful harmony that we are able to observe as conscious and aware organisms is something that we take for granted because it's so incredibly normal. It's such a normal thing. But once you step out of your normal state of observation and you cast away the veil that is fogging up your conscience, you're then able to see life's beautiful intelligibility that much clearer. It's like putting on rose-colored glasses. Consider our solar system, for example. Earth exists through a very thin permitting band in terms of its location in our solar system. The moon stabilizes axial tilt and regulates the Earth's tides. Gravitational constants sit with razor sharp precision. Slight deviation of our solar system and everything collapses. Why do equations describe reality with such mathematical elegance? It all ties into the same reason. For example, pi is not an invention. It's actually discovered within reality through mathematical formulation. The Fibonacci sequence is not imposed onto nature. It's observed through nature. It appears in growth patterns. The golden ratio appears in galaxies, nebulas, solar systems, and even things like shells on the beach. This observed sacred geometry is anything but mysticism. It is pattern recognition of architecture built into the fabric of reality. So even just the few points that I've already made should showcase that reality itself is not random occurrence. It's not derived from what is unconscious. Personally, I think everything has a level of consciousness and a level of desired orientation. Throughout the cosmos, since the dawn of time, matter itself has desired to further complicate itself and adapt throughout space and time. This very fact showcases that there is an intelligible source, an intelligible force. But this architecture that I've described alludes to a design, and design itself implies intentionality. Even if somebody rejects a personal deity, they are still confronted with a cosmos that is seemingly derived and corresponding to something intelligible. And this is a fact, whether they admit to it or not, or whether they're aware of it in the first place. These systems self-regulate. Atoms bond predictably. Acorns reliably become oak trees. This is teleology directed towards fulfillment. This phenomenon is woven into biological life. Why in space and time and reality itself is there coherence instead of fragmentation? Why does matter simply not dissolve into randomness? The common response to this is chance over time. This is how evolution takes place. But chance cannot explain why time itself operates within stable laws. Conceptually, randomness does not generate stable mathematics. Chaos does not spontaneously produce proportion without constraint. Throughout civilization since the dawn of time, we have observed this dualistic structure in reality. Order versus chaos. Light and dark. Masculine and feminine. Yin and yang. Creation, destruction, push, pull. Study Newton's third law of relativity. These archetypes are not arbitrary social inventions. They reflect an observable dynamic of equilibrium enveloped in reality. This is proof of intelligent design. There is no harmony without tension, no beauty without contrast, no structure without resistance. But please notice something crucial. Opposition does not negate intelligence. It reveals reality's relational and dynamic architecture. For instance, Newton's third law, action and reaction. These things demonstrate reciprocal causality at a physical level. Push and pull, exchange, balance. All of these things represent one of the principles and foundations that controls the force that manifests and creates reality itself. This is one of the reasons why billions upon billions of years later, man and woman are still violently attracted to one another. For instance, this symmetry and equilibrium of relationship exists at every scale. It's integral and so deeply embedded into the foundation of reality. Atoms interact through forces. Planets orbit stars. Organisms depend on ecosystems, and human consciousness depends on abstraction and meaning. Reality appears structured through this interdependent resonance, and this resonance requires structure, and structure requires something conscious at the root. If that root was completely random circumstance, what is beautiful and coherent would not be able to form. Beauty cannot form from that which is unintelligible. This is something I've said for years. This is literally the thing that brought me out of deep anxiety, depression, and idle ideation. This very conceptualization brought me out of depression because it made me observe balance, hope, structure, and purpose. And I am not the only one. When you find a poem in the sand, you automatically attribute it to an author. You do not attribute it to the wind, because syntax implies cognition. Abstraction implies mind. Yet we are told the most complex coded structure in existence has no author. It just randomly came up. That intelligence is an accidental byproduct of chemical collisions. This is not humility or sophistication. This is metaphysical avoidance and conceptual ignorance. Now consider space and time. At some point, expansion had to occur. Whether one accepts the Big Bang Theory or another cosmological model, there was an observable inception. The scientific consensus agrees upon this very fact, that there was an inception to reality itself. So the question is, why did this expansion produce logical and rational ratios rather than just collapse? Why did energy condense into matter? And why did this matter manifest into stars, solar systems, and organisms instead of just dissolving? It doesn't make any logical sense. And hopefully throughout this video, the veil is starting to dissolve and you're able to see these things. So the main question is, why is the universe intelligible? The fact that mathematics maps onto reality, period, is astonishing. Like, that is actually an impossibility. The fact that human cognition can comprehend cosmic structure, that suggests a complete coherence and relation between mind and cosmos, between divinity and nature. Perhaps what we call God is not a figure, but the underlying fundamental basis and force that creates reality itself. The source in which intelligence, symmetry, balance, and equilibrium emerge. Even the Trinity, extrapolated philosophically, maps on to existence. Origin as generative source, embodiment as manifested structure, spirit as animating awareness. These are not primitive myths. They are archetypical expressions on how reality unfolds. Modern society, however, attempts and desires to distance us from observing and realizing this architecture integral to reality. Artificial environments, artificial lights, poisons in our environment, poisons in our food, endless stimulation. Our nervous systems are saturated and our minds are calloused. Our spiritual organs and our spiritual inclination throughout our body has been tampered with. And it's getting progressively more difficult for us to connect to the divine. This is a big crime against humanity, and very few people are aware of this. Please spread the word, and please spread and share this video, and like and subscribe. It seriously helps to get this message out, because observing that reality has a purpose and a beautiful balance is one of the things that makes human civilization prosper. And the antithesis of all of this is what creates the city of Babylon, for instance. When you remove artificial input and step into the wilderness, or step into silence, fasting, meditation, prayer, something recalibrates you and you feel it pugnantly. You feel this attunement. You sense coherence again. That is not superstition. That is resonance with structure and nature itself. Consciousness perceives matter in at least one undeniable respect. Observation alters outcome at quantum levels. The observer effect suggests that measurement influences behavior. While perhaps this is not simplistic proof of a deity, it does undermine strict materialism. Consciousness is never irrelevant. It always participates. Yet modern society wants to shun conscience in the corner and act like it's not the most important and useful tool that we have. So what is God? God is not reducible to a caricature. God is the formula of existence, the logos, wisdom itself orientating reality, the ground in which intelligence and symmetry arise, the coherence sustaining and producing space and time. Call it source, call it an intelligent design, intelligent designer, call it absolute. The terminology right here is secondary to my point, and our observation on this phenomenon. Regardless on what you call it, the architecture remains. And this is something that could perhaps bring people closer together amongst their disagreement on theological terms or ontological terms. This is something incredibly beautiful, and unfortunately a lot of people want to reduce and minimize and destroy this information. Beauty is harmony between complexity and simplicity, between order and chaos, between tension and resolution. That harmony requires a field capable of sustaining it. If reality can produce consciousness, morality, love, mathematics, music, and meaning, then its foundation cannot be less than those things. And this is the truth. This supersedes science. This supersedes philosophy. The unconscious does not generate conscience. The irrational does not generate rationality. The meaninglessness does not generate meaning. You are not a random flicker in the void. You are an expression of deep structure. You are the universe manifesting itself and observing its creation. What you do with it is your choice. Either you vandalize that creation or you glorify it. To disconnect from that harmony produces fragmentation, and what aligns with structure flourishes, and what resists structure collapses. I suggest looking into the teachings of Christ. From my experience, they've been extremely transformative. For me to you, I think it is at least worth to check out. Civilizations decay when they sever themselves from transcendent standards. Individuals decay when they sever themselves from alignment with truth. This is not punishment, however, but it is misalignment with the innate architecture that reality bleeds from. God is not a fragile belief or a silly idea. God is what people are trying to define as the underlying coherence to reality itself. We as humans are silly, and we use religion for power plays, and we misrepresent and misdiagnose things. So if you were hurt by religion or hurt by people promoting God, just understand that we are really silly individuals, but there is a lot of truth embedded in these religions and embedded with a personal relationship with God. For instance, this is what Christ even states. He says the one true religion that is worthwhile is your personal relationship with the Father's will. These secular religions, these institutional religions, it's just people in power. And if you were hurt by that, I'm sorry, but do not let them negate your whole idea on the underlying beauty that is embedded in reality. Life is too short to neglect this magnificent phenomenon. Consciousness precedes matter. Order precedes complexity. Intelligence precedes expression. The moral rational conclusion, observing symmetry, proportion, teleology, coherence, and intelligibility, is that reality flows from intelligence. That is the deduction. The only question is whether you align with it or you deny it, because denial does not dissolve structure. It only distances you from it. Everybody, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If this was cool or inspiring or was able to show you something pretty interesting, let me know. And if you guys have any arguments or replies or comments or anything, put it in the description below, or not the description, put it in the replies below, and I will definitely get back to them. Here's my email on the screen here. If you guys want to contact me with absolutely any reason, whether you want some help or some insight or some opinion, I will definitely help you guys out. And gals, anybody under the sun. So please let me know what you think about this video, and without further ado, I will see you in the next one. I hope everybody has a good day, good week, good month, good year. Also, check out my TikTok and my other social medias. The TikTok is doing super well. I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, please check it out.